Hi, good morning. Thanks for joining us today at Inspire the Spirit. Today's message, we're going to dive right into it, is overcomer. Now, an overcomer is defined as a person who overcomes something, such as a problem or a difficulty. Overcomers are ones who successfully deals with or gains control of a problem, a difficulty, a challenge, or adversity. So today's question becomes to each of you, is there something you're facing, a problem, a difficulty? You have a challenge. Is there some sort of adversity that you're confronting today? And the question becomes, will you be an overcomer? Are you an overcomer? To be an overcomer, your mindset cannot be overestimated. What you say about yourself influences both your successes and your setbacks in life. The more positive you speak, the more successful you'll be. Your negative talk into yourself, the more setbacks you're going to experience in life. We have to remind ourselves of the old saying, what others say about you is their business. What you say about yourself is your business. So when you speak to yourself, speak life into your own mind. Now, hopefully I'm not the only person that talks to myself, that has in-depth conversations. I'm convinced some of the greatest conversations in the history of mankind have happened right here. But there's times when you have to fight back the negativity. You have to fight back those voices that you know aren't from God. So speaking life to yourself, what does that mean? It's knowing things are going to be okay in spite of your circumstances. You see, your circumstances will always change in life, but we serve a God who never changes. Speaking life means to quit being the victim and start being the victor. So many of us always want to be a victim. We're always a result of somebody else's actions, something that happened to us, something we're experiencing. So it's the woe is me, I'm a victim. But we need to claim victory through Jesus Christ. You see, when you speak life, you ignore your circumstances, you ignore your feelings, and you say, God's got this. God's got this. And that's really all we need. What do you need to speak life over right now in your own life? What's going on right now in this moment, in this point in time in your personal life that you say, you know what, I really need to speak life over this issue? You need to name it. The problem is so many times we try to ignore problems, adversity, conflicts, health issues, whatever it is, but you got to name it. You got to call it out. A team can't defeat its opponent unless it studies the team, unless it watches the game film, unless it knows the other team's players and what numbers they wear, what their strengths and weaknesses are. And anything we face in life's the same way. We have to name it, call it out before we overcome it. It might be something from your past you can't let go of. It may be a loss you've experienced. It may be a health challenge. It may be somebody or something that requires a confrontation. You just got to stand up and face the conflict head on. Proverbs 18:21 says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. That's a little bit of an odd verse, but if you think about it, it's really true. The words that we say have power, extreme power. But there's two types of power in this verse. There's power of life, and there's the power of death. And the one you love is the one whose fruit you're going to enjoy. So if you're speaking life, you're speaking positively about situations. You're taking that victor position. You're giving praise. You're offering thanks before anything else. But if you're looking at the power of death, that's the negativity in the world. That's dwelling on the past, dwelling on things and feelings and always feeling sorry for yourself. That's that victim mentality. The beauty of this is you get to choose. It's nobody else's choice but yours, how you speak and how you think about yourself. As Christians, we are overcomers. Now, who likes Jelly Rolls? Not the donut, the performer, the artist. Now, Jelly Roll's real name is Jason Bradley DeFord. He was born in 1984, and he really didn't become popular until 2022 when he had two big hits, Son of a Sinner and Need a Favor. But you see, to get there, he had to overcome a lot in his life. He was raised in Nashville, Tennessee. His dad was a bookie. His mom suffered mental illness and addiction. But he always felt a connection and a calling, a higher calling. And at age 14, he got baptized. And right after getting baptized, he says he began dabbling in drugs. And he stopped going to church. And he said, the same year that I got baptized, I got arrested. And that started what would be a 10-year cycle of incarceration in and out of prison. You see, his first offense, he had a lot. He has several felonies, including possession with intent to distribute, aggravated robbery. He even didn't get to go to high school, so while in prison, he earned his GED, but he didn't get that till age 23. His first offense, they went in and they robbed a house. He didn't have a gun. The people he was with, he claims he didn't even know they probably had guns. So he just got away with aggravated robbery. But he went into the juvenile system, and he got tried, and he was convicted, and he was in and out. And he was dealing on the street, and he really thought, his dad told him, as long as you do something that doesn't, hurt yourself, it's okay. So he just thought, he started messing with fentanyl, started playing chemist. Figured he wasn't hurting himself, wasn't doing anything, he was just making some money on the side, wasn't his problem. But he got busted several times, and he went in and out, and he spent most of that 10-year period in the juvenile system. Fast forward to January of 24. The man who had been convicted of robbery, possession, dealing drugs, in January of 24, he testified in front of Congress, the United States Congress, in support of anti-fentanyl legislation. And he said, I was part of the problem. I'm here now, standing as a man that wants to be part of the solution. That's becoming an overcomer. Here's a 14-year-old juvenile whose life's been crushed, had some challenges growing up, and yet he overcame. He's now a popular recording artist. He's even acting. His first acting roles was Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. He's been in some recent shows. He went through a series when he was in prison. He says he wanted to be a rapper, so he started getting the tattoos and he started rapping. If you've ever heard his old rap music, it's pretty violent. And he got out and he started rapping, started hanging out with some guys. But as he progressed, he started migrating back to his Nashville roots, started mixing a little country and a little southern rock and roll into his lineup. But all of his songs are about redemption, restoration, and overcoming past addictions and conflict. And his crowd started resonating with his message. Here's a guy who had been at rock bottom and who still admits he struggles every day. But here's a guy who is now using his platform to flip the script, to become an overcomer. He's been on Saturday Night Live. He's been on talk shows. He's been at every awards ceremony. And recently he just collaborated with Brandon Lake for a single, Hard Fought Hallelujah. He's got 2 kids from previous relationships, And he says the moment he changed, his daughter was born while he was a young kid in prison, and the mom was so addicted that she was on her deathbed. He says, my child is going to be orphaned. I'm going to be in prison. I've got to do something different. So he returned to his Christian faith. He got out, got married, took full custody of his 2 kids. And what's interesting is a 14-year-old boy that was baptized, he returned to his Christian faith when he was 39 years old. That's a 25-year gap from the time he got baptized till the time he came back to the cross. And in that 25 years, you could say, where was God? Was he silent? He was working and developing. His daughter came to him and says, I'd like to get baptized. And he said, and this is him talking, I should go see what kind of cult she's going to, he recalled, because that's kind of how I looked at church at the time. And then I went, and I was reminded of the genuineness that can be in those walls too. I was reminded of the humanity and the compassion and the forgiveness, the love in the community, more than anything watching her and all of her friends there. Here recently in an interview in 2025, he said, I might wear it a little differently than other people. I might say things that other Christians don't think are right to say, but ultimately, I have a heart for God and I have a heart for Jesus. When he testified in front of the United States Senate Committee on the Anti-Fentanyl Act, he told them point blank, I was part of the problem. I'm here now standing as a man that wants to be a part of the solution. I brought my community down. I hurt people. I was the uneducated man in the kitchen playing chemist with drugs I knew absolutely nothing about. And just like these drug dealers are doing right now, they're mixing every drug on the market with fentanyl, and they're killing the people we love. His message is one of he wanted to become an overcomer. And he realized that through Jesus Christ alone, through Jesus, he was the only one that could overcome sin and death on his behalf, and everything was God's grace. So who does God say you are today? Are you an overcomer? Megan Wood just has the #1 song, The Truth, where she talks about spending so much of her life listening to the lies in her head and battling the anxiety and the depression when you realize that's not even God's voice. And when asked about that song, about how the song reminds us, quit listening to negativity. To become an overcomer, we have to focus on God's voice and his promises and who he says we are as children of God. And they asked her, well, what's the song really about? And she says, God's voice is louder than the enemy. You see, your life reflects what you say about yourself. The truth is, what does God say about you? Are you an overcomer? Now let's admit, sometimes it's hard to believe. We get caught up in the negativity and the negative talk, and it's really hard to believe we can be an overcomer. But that's okay, you're not alone. In Mark chapter 9, there was a young boy possessed by a demonic spirit, and it made him mute. He couldn't talk. And the spirit would take him into convulsions and throw him into fires. He'd see a fire, and the spirit would lock him up, and he says he'd have convulsions. He would, saliva and foaming at the mouth, and his body would start to crimp up, and it would throw him into fires and even into water, but it couldn't kill him. And the father had told these people he'd been this way since birth. And the disciples and some Pharisees were around this boy, and the father was begging for help. Can somebody cast this demon out? And they were struggling with it, and here comes Jesus. And he walks up. And he asks what happened. And the father tells him the story. Jesus says, how long has he been like this? From childhood, he answered. It has often thrown him into fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. Now, what the father's response is interesting. He uses that famous word, but. Whenever you're talking to somebody, you're reading, and you see the word but, you better pay attention. Because everything else before it just got negated. But If you can do anything. He's talking to Jesus. If you can do anything. And I love Jesus' response in Mark 9, chapter 23. If you can, said Jesus, with a question mark. Jesus asked a rhetorical question for emphasis. The man said, Jesus, if you can help. And Jesus says, if you can. I mean, I just see Jesus stepping back like, if you can, do you know who you're talking to? If you can, said Jesus, everything is possible for one who believes. And what did the man say back? Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my belief. And what a raw, honest confession by this man. And sometimes we're just like it, right? We really believe that Jesus can step in and help us become an overcomer. Whatever challenge we're facing today, whatever's weighing us down, and yet there's always seems to be in the back of your head some little voice that wants to just, maybe he's not going to do it for you. Yeah, you believe he can. You know he can. But then you ask yourself, well, is he going to do it for me? Is he going to help me overcome this health issue? Is he going to help me through this anxiety and depression and stress? Is he going to help me in my financial situation? And that's not even God speaking. That's the negative talk. That's the enemy planting seeds of doubt. And this story is so powerful because it can allow us to relate. I do believe, but help me overcome my belief. He wanted to be an overcomer. And it's really, to me, it's kind of almost catch-22. I don't know what the right word is, but so many times we come to Jesus and we say, I want to do this. I believe you. Can you help me do this and help me over? It's kind of like you're asking, you want to do something for Jesus, with Jesus, but you acknowledge, I really can't do anything without you. I want to do this, but you're going to have to help me. And Jesus wants us to be passionate about life. He wants us to be open and honest. Pastor Charles Swindoll says that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. See, we control very little of what happens to us, but we always control how we respond. I love this saying written by an unknown person. An entire sea of water can't sink a ship unless it gets inside the ship. Similarly, the negativity of the world can't put you down unless you allow it to get inside of you. A ship floats on water, as much water as the world can have. But once that water gets inside the ship sinks. And the world's full of all kinds of negativity, and you can't do this, and you're not good enough, and the lie. None of it can affect you and sink you until you allow it to get inside of you. In the movie Overcomer, the 2019 movie, I love the movie. There's this guy, he's a head coach. He's got this great basketball team coming back. He was runner-up in state. His whole team's coming back. This is the year. And right before the season starts, the mill in the small town, this factory shuts down, and he loses his whole team. They have to cut the program, and just to keep funding, they create a cross-country team, and he has one girl show up on the team, and she has asthma. And that's his track team. And there's two stories. There's his story in the movie, and then there's her story. And the only reason she's even out for track is her father had died. Her father was a legend in the town and had won a state championship. He was a track champion. She's got a separate storyline, but in the movie, there's this powerful scene where the man's sitting down. He's on visitation in the hospital. He's talking to a bedridden man who's at the end of his life from diabetic issues that he never took care of. He'd been homeless on the street. He's actually the father of the daughter. And he's having just a normal bedside conversation in the hospital. And the sick man asks him, tell me who you are. He says, I'm a basketball coach. That's it? You're a basketball coach. Well, obviously your team got taken away. So who are you now? He goes, well, I'm also a history teacher. Well, that's interesting. What if that gets taken away from you? Well, I'm a husband. I'm a father. Well, heaven forbid you ever lose that. But if that's stripped away, who are you? What are you really made of? And he goes through a series of questions. And you can tell the man's getting frustrated. And he asks him one more time, anything else about you? And he goes, well, I'm a Christian. He goes, you're a Christian? What does that mean? He goes, a follower of Christ. Well, is that important? Oh, yeah, it's very important. And he replied, he said, well, doesn't sound like it. It sure was way down on your list. And so many times, aren't we the same way? You go to a business function, you're at a gathering, you're at a party, you're at a group of people, a networking, social event, and someone says, tell me something about yourself. And aren't we just like that man? What's the first thing we tell people? Well, my name is such and such, here's where I work, here's what I do. Something that's honestly not even relative in the grand scheme of life. And maybe somebody says, well, just tell me about yourself. Get a little deeper. And you might say, well, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a wife, I'm a mother. You might tell somebody about your kids. What else? Well, then you might go into some hobbies. But we're just like the man. How often do we, the first thing out of our mouth when somebody says, introduce yourself, tell us a little about you, how many of us, the first thing we say is, first and foremost, I'm a follower of Christ. Everything else is secondary. That's my top priority. That's how I identify. That's the first thing I want people to say about me. I'm a follower of Christ. I'm an overcomer. Through Christ, I've overcome death, sin, and the grave. Through His grace, God's grace, that's why I'm here today. Then I can tell you about some secondary things in my life. I can tell you what I do for a living or what roles I play. But first and foremost, to be an overcomer, we have to proclaim who we are in Christ first and foremost. 1 John 5:5 says, who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. You know, wrapping up here, as Christians, we have the power to speak change into our lives. We have the power to overcome anything we're facing. If you need it, I love this saying in life, if you need to change your life, then do so. The only person that can change it's you. No one else is going to step in and change it for you. If you need to change it, do it. Make the change. And listen to the Father. Listen to God and allow Him to guide you. The attitude that you woke up with this morning will determine your level of success not only today, but for tomorrow also. So ask yourself, what was your mindset this morning when you woke up? When you got out of bed this morning, what was your mental frame of mind? It's dark, it's raining, I got to drive to work, I got to get up a little earlier than usual? Or is it a heart full of praise and thankfulness for God blessing us with rain, for God blessing us with a place to go to work? Being an overcomer is simply acknowledging that our God and your faith are stronger than the problems and the circumstances you face in life. It's thundering outside. There's a lot of rain. Man, if April showers make May flowers grow, we got a lot of flowers coming next month. Maybe it's time to stop telling God about our storms and start telling the storms about our God. Ephesians 4:29, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Sometimes to become an overcomer, we have to help somebody else overcome something first. God's using you to overcome, to help somebody else become that overcomer as you're going through the process. I want to leave you with one saying by Paul Avellino before we dismiss here today. He wrote this: each morning gives you a choice. See life as a beautiful gift or a heavy burden. The mindset you wake up with sets the tone for your entire day. That's why those who begin their mornings with deep gratitude tend to feel more joy than those who start with complaints. So as we leave here today, let's give thanks for all that we have. Put on your overcomer ball cap or rain hat, whatever you have to wear today. And let's go out there in the world today and speak life, not only to ourselves, but to our customers, our clients, our loved ones, to everybody we cross paths with today. Let's share the gospel, be an overcomer, and speak life in all situations. God bless. Have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you back here next Wednesday morning.